course we will.
Hey, Michael, good to see you. Last week, Will said that the plan was to, quote, win by committee. Without Jamal for the foreseeable future, is that kind of a guiding philosophy for you guys as you break for camp tomorrow in San Diego?
Yeah, I think that's on point. I think Will's mindset is where it needs to be regarding going into this season without Jamal Murray. You go back to last year, Mike, April 12th in Golden State when Jamal suffered that injury. I remember the next day speaking to our team, and that was kind of the point I made at that time. There is not another Jamal Murray on this team, and I don't want anybody trying to be Jamal. We were going to make up for his loss as a committee as long as everybody brought the best version of themselves. And obviously 18 games to go after that injury, we went 13-5 and were able to beat the Portland Trailblazers in the first round without our starting backcourt. So I think that was our mindset to finish the season into the playoffs last year. And now as we start this new season, I think that has to be the same mindset. It is by committee. We're going to need everyone to bring their best every day. And obviously, Nikola had an MVP season last year, but we also need everybody else to step up. And I know in the group the way I do, Mike, I anticipate that happening.
Chris Dempsey, Altitude Sports.
Good morning, Coach. Well, in that light, then, how happy are you that the summer was spent basically retaining the entire team, or the majority of it anyway, who had contract situations? And then what's your best Jamal Murray update as well?
Yeah, well, regarding Jamal, was with him yesterday for a while. Looks great, doing very well in his rehab. And more importantly to me, Demps, is that he is doing well mentally. I think a lot of times we think about a rehab from an ACL injury, and you often go to, okay, well, how is his knee going? How is it feeling? How's the recovery? Which is important, but just as important to me is the mental side of it. Because as you all know, when you have potentially a 10 to 12 month recovery, that can be overwhelming. And it's just great to see Jamal in good spirits. He was able to finally go home and see his family, which I think was so important for his recovery and for him to be in the right place mentally as we go into this new season. So on all accounts, both physically and mentally, Jamal is doing well. And I'm proud of him because, this is not an easy road, but he is definitely attacking it the way he needs to. And then your other point, I think, is a really important point and something that I take great pride in, as does Tim Connolly and everybody associated with the team. We have a lot of guys that want to be here. You talk about the Will Bartons, the Aaron Gordons, the Austin Rivers, the Jermichael Greens, guys that could have, maybe gone elsewhere or looked to go elsewhere, but they all wanted to come back. That speaks to the group that we have, the culture that we have, and kind of a common phrase and common theme throughout the summer. And my discussions with all those players was that we feel that we have unfinished business. We feel that last year we had a legitimate chance to win a world championship. Then injuries obviously, cropped up at the wrong time and all throughout our roster. So the fact that all 4 of those players that I mentioned were willing to come back, want to be a part of this, want to see this through with the ultimate goal of bringing a world championship to Denver, I think is really exciting. And then you add on top of that the signing of a guy like Jeff Green, who I think is going to be a tremendous addition to us on the floor, in the locker room, off the court, just in every aspect you can imagine. So really excited about that.
Matt Moore, The Action Network.
Michael, the last 2 years have been hard on everyone, but you especially, you had the bubble and that experience, short off season. Last season was difficult, the injuries on top of it. Last time that we kind of talked after the season, you had mentioned that you thought there'd be some carryover from the exhaustion of the last couple of years into this season. Do you still kind of feel that? And you personally, how are you in terms of your mentality dealing with this extended run of games and stress going into a season where you have championship aspirations?
Yeah, I think we'll be fine going into this year. We were talking last week as a coaching staff, and I had a birthday in September, and it was amazing that Game 7 against the Clippers was just one calendar year ago. And I believe, Matt, we are playing parts of 3 different seasons within one calendar year. We had the bubble, we had the 72 games last year that ended on June 16th, and a Game 4 loss to Phoenix. And now we leave for San Diego today to start our training camp for the 21-22 season. That is a lot of basketball in a short period of time. As we all know, our group has constantly shown how mentally tough they are and how they're not afraid to face adversity. And I think this year is going to be another challenge for us to handle those adverse situations. You look at our first 20 games, we have a very difficult schedule to start the season. So it's going to be really important that we get off to a better start than we did last year when we started 1-4 and we were kind of playing from behind to start the season last year. But yeah, I think our guys are ready for that. As for me, I'm ready as well. I was able to spend a quality time with my family, to get away, to get balance back in my life. And then all September, our gym was packed. We had a great gym and all throughout September. And that's when you start getting those juices flowing. You get excited to be back in the gym and start your quest once again to try to win a championship. And that's always our goal. We always try to get better every day with the ultimate goal of trying to win a championship. This year will be that much tougher. I think any team in the NBA that loses their second best player, Matt, is going to obviously have a much tougher time of accomplishing that goal. But we also know that we have other talented players. We have an MVP in Nikola and guys that are willing to step up and do whatever it takes.
Adam Mares, DNVR.
Hey, Coach, good to see you, and congrats on tipping off your 8th season here in Denver. I want to ask you about the identity of the team now without Jamal Murray. To what extent do you feel the team needs to find a new identity or parts of a new identity now that he is not there and you have new pieces? And specifically with Michael Porter and Nikola Jokic, do you feel there is a two-man game or something similar to what Jamal and Jokic have, or Barton and Jokic, that you feel those two need to forge?
Yeah, I think it's 7 years. But I like how you think
Okay.
it's 7, but I'll take 8. I mean, talk to Tim Connolly on that. Yeah, I mean, as far as, Jamal, the injury, our identity, it kind of stays the same. I mean, obviously the defense and the expectations that we have to be a better defensive team than we were last year, that's going to stay the same no matter who's in the lineup, no matter who's on the floor. So that has to be the case. Offensively, obviously, we'd like to play a little bit faster. We were a really efficient offensive team in transition. The problem, Adam, is that we didn't get there. We didn't have enough attempts. We were high efficiency, low frequency, if that makes sense. So we want to get out and run more. And obviously an improved defense, continued quality defensive rebounding will enable us to be a better running team. For me, your identity can't change when you lose one player. Obviously, if you lose Nikola Jokic, he is a center of everything we do. So that would be a tough one. But I think we showed in those 18 games after Jamal's injury that we can still be a quality defensive and offensive team. Jamal's a great player. I think he's shown everybody that. So trying to fill that void is tough. And you mentioned something that's really important. We've been one of the best closing teams in the NBA because we had, in my opinion, the best two-man game in the league in Jamal and Nikola. I thought when Jamal went down, I thought Michael Porter really stepped up. I thought he had a tremendous season last year. My humble opinion, should have been the most improved player. But Michael's relationship with Nikola on and off the court is growing. It's getting, they're getting tighter. They're getting used to each other, reading each other, playing off of each other. You mentioned Will. Aaron Gordon's another guy. That's one of the reasons I'm excited about this training camp is that, Aaron Gordon has not had a training camp with us. Austin Rivers did not have a training camp with us. And a lot of the new guys last year, it was such a weird training camp, short training camp. I'm not even counting that. So guys like Facu and Jermichael Green, so on and so forth. This training camp in San Diego will give us a chance to really allow those guys to further understand who we are and what we're trying to do on a day-to-day basis. But I think all those relationships on the court will grow as the season goes along.
Brandon Cristal, KOA Denver.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Last year when I asked about the culture being, I guess, led or set by Nikola, you kind of pushed back and you said that you set the culture and he fit in. But when you mentioned all these guys wanting to come back and the culture, how much of it is Nikola, I guess, woven into the fabric of that culture?
Oh, it's a huge part of it. And it wasn't me pushing back. It was just me. I think sometimes we have recency bias. And what I mean by that is, 3 years ago, Nikola was not the embodiment of our culture. And I think once he really kind of figured out that he had to get in great shape, he had to lose weight and kind of change his work ethic, that's when it kind of clicked for him and us. But this is something that we've been preaching since the day I got the job, as Adam said 8 years ago. Nikola is a centerpiece of everything we do. He's an MVP. When you have the best player in the league setting the tone on a daily basis, that is invaluable. And we all feel very fortunate that he is a guy that is willing to embody that culture of being a work team, a team that trusts one another and is truly selfless. I mean, he's one of the most selfless superstars you'll ever come across. And I think you guys all understand that.
Harrison Wind, DNVR.
Hey, Michael, good to see you. How do you balance those championship aspirations you talked about with making sure somebody like Nikola doesn't wear out mentally and physically throughout the season? He said a couple of days ago when we spoke to him that he was going to listen to you guys in terms of rest and load management throughout the season if you wanted him to do that. So do you have a plan for that or an idea of how you'll kind of approach that throughout the season?
Yeah, Nikola says that now. We'll see what his response is as we move into the season. But obviously, we're moving back to an 82-game schedule, and we still have, aspirations of being a playoff team. As you all know, that we're the only team in the West that's advanced out of the first round in each of the last 3 seasons, and hopefully we can continue that trend. And Nikola will be a big part of that, and not just for him. A guy like Jeff Green, who's been in the league since 2007. Whether it's Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, Monte Will, PJ, whoever it is, I think this year, knowing not just the season that we're in, but the cumulative total of the last 3 seasons, 2 seasons, that adds up. And we want to do right by our players. We want to be as healthy as we can towards the end of the season. And that's where conversations with myself, our training staff, looking at the schedule and finding days and opportunities where we may have to look to rest some guys. Now, when I say that, obviously the NBA is really concerned and want to make sure that when you are going to rest a player, that is truly needed, and we're doing it in the right instances. So we'll abide by the NBA's wishes and make sure we're constantly communicating with them as to what our plan is, because in all this, it's not just the Denver Nuggets, it's us working with the league to make sure we're giving our fans, not just in Denver, but across the country and around the globe, access to the best players in the world.
All right, we got time. We got time for a couple more. We're going to go with Joel Rush from Forbes.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Last week, Aaron Gordon was saying that maybe he was a little bit more injured near the end of the season than we may have seen, and he was basically playing on 1.5 feet. How's he looking in the early runs, and what do you think of fully healthy Aaron Gordon and being in training camp as well may unlock for him and the team this season?
Yeah, Aaron, he looks great. He was in and out of our gym all summer long. You could tell he came back great shape. The jump shot, his conditioning, and his attitude. That's one thing I mentioned earlier. Joel, is, what excites me more than anything was that it was Aaron Gordon and his representation that kind of started the conversation of trying to get a new contract done. We all know how important Aaron was to us last year. And I think when you look at Aaron, you can get caught up sometimes in looking at, stats and numbers and efficiency. Well, as Tom Brady said a few years ago, the most important stat in a player's efficiency and effectiveness is winning and losing. And Aaron Gordon impacted our winning at a high level. And the fact that he believes in what we're trying to do here, I think is tremendous. But he looks great. I think him having a complete full training camp with us will only allow him to be more comfortable and allow me to find ways to even use him in varied ways. He has a unique skill set. He can handle, he can play pick and roll. He was a backup point guard in Orlando at times. He can play the 3, he can play the 4, and we all saw in the postseason his ability to guard multiple positions. So he's extremely valuable to us. Very happy that he's going to be here for a long time. And I anticipate Aaron having a tremendous training camp.
Arnie Stapleton, Associated Press. Hey, Arnie, we can't hear you here.
Sorry, Michael. Porter had such a leap in the bubble, and then last year took strides in other areas of his game. Where do you want him to sharpen or focus entering this season? What aspects of his game do you think he can really improve on?
Well, all of us, even Nikola, who's a reigning MVP, can improve. That's something I think we're always challenging ourselves as coaches, as well as our players, is to come back better players. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You never stay the same. For Michael, that's what excites me. He's played 2 years in the NBA. He's put up incredible numbers for a guy that's only played 2 years in the NBA, and the sky is the limit. Offensively, I think he has to be more disciplined in running the floor. The guy shoots the corner 3 like a layup, but now we have to get him to the corners more. He's got to be more disciplined in that instead of stopping in the middle of the floor or above the break. Each of the 30 teams is trying to generate more corner 3s and then transition. That's a great way to get them. And Michael is highly efficient when he gets below the break into the corner. So he's got to be a more consistent runner, and he's got to continue to grow in the area of moving without the ball. He started to understand, okay, I'm playing with the best player in the game, who's also one of the best passers in the game. And if I continue to cut and move without it, I'm such a big target, Nikola is going to find me. And then defensively, that's something that I know from my conversations with Michael. He wants to continue to grow in. He does not want to be a guy, when you get to the playoffs, that every team is trying to go at him and put him in the action every possession. He doesn't want to be a liability, and he wants to be a player that I can trust at the end of games to close out games when we need a big stop. And I love the fact that he's aware of that, and he knows that it's not about being a great scorer. For us to be the best team that we can be, Michael Porter needs to be an efficient and engaged two-way player. And he's aware of that, and he's making the necessary strides to become that. And I'm proud of him for that.
Matt Moore, the Action Network.
Michael, you've been known for your ability to communicate with the players and build relationships, but you've also been forward on various social issues, whether it's gun violence or Black Lives Matter. So I feel the need to ask you this. What is your comfort level with the team's vaccination rate? And do you have any thoughts on that continuing conversation with the league?
Yeah, it's what I love to be able to sit here and say to you, Matt, and everybody else on this, that we're 100% vaccinated. That I'd be thrilled about that. The fact is that we're not, and that's all I'll say on that matter regarding who is and who's not. And it's a delicate balance. It is not my place to tell somebody that they have to be vaccinated. It's an individual choice. Obviously, we had our head coach's Zoom call about 2 weeks ago, and Adam Silver talked about, he had hoped to engage the NBPA in talks of trying to get every player vaccinated, but those conversations didn't go where we all wanted them to go. So it is what it is. The only concern I have is that for unvaccinated players, this is real. Delta variant is still real, as we all know. I know a few weeks ago, I think 1,500 people were still dying every day from COVID, and most notably the Delta variant. So, you don't want, unvaccinated players putting anybody at risk, but at the same time, it's a freedom of choice by each individual in the locker room. And yes, your last question, your last point, Matt, it is something that we'll continue to talk about and just try to help educate. I know there was a big article recently, I think it may be Rolling Stone, talking about some of the players throughout the league and the different theories as to, why not to get it. And if you did get it, what was going to happen to you. So I think all we can do is try to help educate the players that have chosen to be unvaccinated to this point. And maybe at some point they realize, well, what's at stake, and they make that decision to get vaccinated. But until then, we'll keep on trying for sure.
All right, we got time for one more. We're going to end with Mike Singer from the Denver Post.
Hey, Michael, first of all, I just noticed the Mickey Mouse ears in the corner. So those are pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Looks good. I like it. I wasn't going to ask you to put them on, but I considered it. So Monte said last week, it's championship or bust for us. We've gotten to a point where we're not content just making the playoffs, and we actually want to thrive and succeed and reach the finals and obviously raise the trophy at the end. Have you gotten that sense from your team and being in the gym and seeing them work out, that everybody has that kind of pervasive mindset that it's championship or bust this season?
Yeah, I don't get the sense. I know for me, it's not championship or bust because you're setting yourself up for a lot of failure if that's it. Like if we don't win a championship this year, it was a wasted season. I never look at it that way. I think if you're truly serious about being a team that's capable of winning a championship, Mike, it'll be shown every single day at every practice, at every weight session, film session, shoot around. Because there's 30 teams right now talking about winning a championship. The reality is how many are real championship contenders? But that's what everybody does. You start off the season with high hopes, high aspirations. And then for a lot of teams, reality sets in really quick. We've been able to win a lot of games the last 3 years. I love the path and trajectory that we're on. Let's be honest, having no Jamal Murray is makes that task a lot more difficult. Now, when I say that, that is not saying I don't believe in Monte, Will, Michael, Aaron, Nikola, Facu, Austin, PJ, Jeff, Jamichael, Bones, Vlatko, Bowl, Zeke, and I'm probably missing a few players, and I apologize. So it's not championship or bust for me, but that's great if the players have that mindset, because that means that every day they're going to push each other and themselves to be the best player and team that we can be. And if we continue to find ways to get better every day, then who knows, at the end of the season, we may be in that position to be a team that's able to win a championship. So, I think we've proven ourselves last 3 years of who we are, what we're capable of. And hopefully this year is just another example of the Denver Nuggets are a team to be reckoned with Jamal Murray or without Jamal Murray. And, that's why training camp will be a great way to get out to San Diego, work every day, and play the Clippers in Golden State before coming back to get ready for Minnesota in our third preseason game. So I'd love to win a championship. You know that, Mike. We were on the podcast last week with you, Tim and I, and that's what drives me and drives everybody. Whether it happens this year, next year, or the year after, we will not be satisfied until that happens.
All right, that'll do it. Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys, appreciate it.